So this afternoon, yes, I feel like I've been talking for a long time today. But I'm very happy to be able to be here and to have Dr. Nelson with me. Together this past couple of years, we have taught and mentored students in research. And it's a lot of heavy lifting, so we thought, why not share our successes and the information that our students and us have worked on intensely with others. So in this presentation, we will focus specifically on cultural background, family upbringing, and gender role expectations. How are these two aspects specifically influence gender role expectations? So when we're talking about gender role expectations, it's society's norm that shape how we view relationships, what we do, what we're supposed to do, right? I'm supposed to cook, perhaps not my husband if I would have one, right? Because that's what society says. Parental upbringing and parental education and the parents' opinions and the way that they are teaching their children influences those visions. Culture will have that influence. And especially when students are getting away from home during the college years, this emerging adulthood time is critical for them when they are starting to implement what they have learned in their families and in their cultures in their new relationships. So for our study, we understood that there is not only a critical timeline in the college years for understanding and changing some of these norms that we have been taught as children, but also the fact that there is no research that actually talks about gender role expectations and all these other factors in college students, especially not at the faith-based institution where we have perhaps a different idea of that gender role. So that was our research purpose. We really wanted to find out, okay, what is going on in understanding gender role expectations. This is our theoretical framework. Quick disclaimer that I forgot to make at the beginning. Slide number 1, this one, and the one that has an image on it were created by Gamma AI because I really wanted the colors. And then I was able to sample the colors and do the rest. But you will see this beautiful graph about the two theories that create a foundation for our studies. Our methodology, it was a cross-sectional survey. On SurveyMonkey, it took about 10 to 15 minutes to complete. We invited undergraduate students enrolled in the winter semester or spring at other universities, 18 years and above to complete it. Participants were recruited through campus flyers, Instagram, and word of mouth. And those students who chose to, they completed a separate form where they inputted their name and contact information to be able to be entered into a raffle for $20 gift card. Oh, yes, thank you. IRB. We received the ethical approval from the School of Social Work's Research Ethics Committee, and then through the formal IRB office here at Southern Adventist University. We use different measurements. Two of them, reliable, already tested from the literature, the cultural orientation scale and the family upbringing scale. And then we created our own questions. For socioeconomic status, we chose to look at the highest parental education level and household income. And for gender role expectations, we created our own questions. So we needed to figure out, are these questions actually a scale? And we found through statistical analyses, especially the factor analysis, that yes, there were some questions that created the traditional roles subscale, but then there were other 3 independent questions that remained on their own. So
here we go. Our samples primarily female, primarily heterosexual, and most of the undergraduate students would be in the traditional age group, 18 to 24, and we had 2 that were 26 to 30. Barely non-traditional. The sample primarily white. About half of the sample was white, and then various other minorities, similar to what we have here. And in terms of the Hispanic representation, Southern is a Hispanic serving institution, and this is roughly slightly above the percentage of Hispanic students that we have here. Okay. So in terms of socioeconomic status, the parents of the students in the sample are highly educated, as you can see. Over 60% of the parents reported in the sample highest level degree was a graduate or a professional degree. And in terms of household income, again, a middle class sample, as you can see, almost 65% of the sample parents' annual income is above $75,000. Okay, what you're expecting to see. So our first dependent variable was the traditional gender role subscale, which roughly is about, all the items are about women's role being primarily in the home rather than outside the home. And in terms of how we lined up with the predictors, we had parents, income, education, cultural orientation, and family upbringing. These were the independent variables. So our first set of analyses were multiple regression analyses, and for the gender socialization subscales, the scale that we used had separate scales for males and separate scales for females. And so when we ran the analyses using these, we did them with the male sample and also a female sample. So it showed that for the male sample, the model, which are masculine, feminine, and chores, were the three subscales. The model as a whole approached significance, and the manly subscale, being socialized as a male to be manly, was a significant predictor of embracing traditional gender roles. Mhm. The gender socialization scale was not statistically significant in predicting this outcome, neither was the cultural orientation scale. For the SES variables, we ran two one-way ANOVAs, and neither the parent income model or the highest education model was significant. We were curious and we snuck gender in, and we did find that gender was a statistically significant predictor of endorsing views of women's role being primarily in the home, with males more likely to endorse that position compared to females. Our second dependent variable, which is about men and women having equal responsibility for household tasks, was a statement respondents had to consider. The multiple regression analyses found that in the male sample, the gender socialization model was significant, but only the manly socialization towards manly traits was significant. So the higher men scored on this subscale, the less likely they were to endorse equal responsibility for men and women on household tasks. Cultural orientation skills were not significant, and for highest education was not, but for income, the higher students whose parents were in the highest income bracket were more likely than those in the income brackets below to endorse equal responsibility for household tasks. The third dependent variable, who should be the primary caregiver for young children, the options offered to respondents were primarily the mother, equally shared between parents, and it depends on whoever earns less or the circumstances. A multinomial regression analysis found that culture, the overall model, was not significant, but the tradition subscale approach significance, indicating a higher odds of endorsing mother as the primary caregiver versus whoever earns less. The higher people's scores were on the tradition subscale. And for parents' income, parents whose income fell in the bracket, the middle income bracket, had almost a 4 times higher odds of endorsing caregiving being equally shared between parents compared to the mother primarily. And our third independent variable, who should be the caregiver for young children, highest parental education and was not significant. Neither was gender socialization from males or females. However, in the female sample, higher socialization to do chores as a female role. This was one of the subscales, was a statistically significant predictor with higher scores on this subscale predicted higher odds of endorsing an equal caregiving role between mothers and fathers. And the last one is who should be the primary owner? Should it be primarily the father, both genders equally, or whoever has a higher earning potential or no specific expectation? So for gender socialization for female, chores approach significance with higher socialization to do chores, predicting a higher odds of both genders equally. In the male sample, manly traits, higher scores on manly traits predicted a lower odds of males endorsing the primary earner as fathers, as whoever has the higher earning potential versus fathers. So they were more likely to say it should be fathers primarily. And finally, income and education were not statistically significant, neither the cultural orientation variables. So in terms of summary, what we found in terms of gender socialization is that generally being socialized toward having manly traits as a man tended to be the distinguishing socialization factor for endorsing more of a traditional and non-egalitarian gender roles in two couple families.
So in terms of strengths of limitations of the study, obviously we have both of those. Some of the limitations are inherent. You know, we're at one institution, so we collected data only at one time, so cross-sectional design. However, the survey was fully anonymous. We made sure of that, and that we consider a huge strength because of the topic, sensitivity of the topic. So what are some of the recommendations? And we have plenty of them. I'm not going to read through them, but the bottom line is that it's our responsibility collectively, not only institutionally, not only parental, but while the students are here in our stewardship, we are responsible to teach them the biblical ways, right? Promote those mentoring relationships that model healthy communication, because students are going to learn by observations, right? They learn much more from the 1,000 words that we don't say. From a research perspective, it would be interesting to look at this issue from a longitudinal perspective, look at faith as a compounding variable, relationship outcomes post-programming. You know, do some programs, implement some measures, and then try to find out, did anything change? And obviously include other cultural variables and protective factors in relationships. So we know that family gender socialization continues to play a significant role. And unless there is a time of intervention, students will continue to perpetuate what they have learned in their family of origin, whether good, bad, or not, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and what we do see is socialization seems to matter more for males than females.
yes.
That's the other thing that is showing up. So perhaps some more attention in how males are navigating these issues as they think about forming their own families.
Mentoring. Well, thank you so very much.